What up, YouTube? This is part two of why so many American so-called black people have European last names. Now we're going to go into the Caribbean, and this is an article about Jamaica. Why so many people in Jamaica have these Welsh name, Irish names, these Scottish names. And you see in the left top-hand corner, you see to the left is the Jamaican flag, and then to the right is the Scottish flag, and they look very similar, right? Well, we're going to read the history of how many people in Jamaica have direct lineage or ancestry from the British Isles, particularly Scotland. So let's read this article. The first Scots in Jamaica. The Scottish connection with Jamaica dates from 1656, when Oliver Cromwell banished 1,200 Scots prisoners of war to the recently acquired English colony there. Subsequently, the island attracted a growing number of Scottish immigrants, who generally arrived as indentured servants. At the same time, the government in Scotland was exiling criminals and Covenanters in Jamaica. The last group of Scots to arrive in Jamaica during the 17th century, so that's the 1600s, comprised a number of refugees from the failed colony of Darien. The Scots arrived in two main waves. The first in 1655, when as prisoners of war, they were sold as bond or indentured servants to the English, and in 1745 to 46, after the failure of the Jacobite rebellion. Jacobites were supporters of James II's claim to the English throne. So 3,500 prisoners were taken after the Battle of Culloden, of whom 936 were sentenced to exile for life in the Americas. So this goes against the historical narrative that, all these so-called black people came from West Africa. Because by, their own admission is saying that so many of these people who live in Jamaica and other parts in the Caribbean, they came from Europe as deportees, as exiles, as they were prisoners of war. And this is in the 1700s. So this is very interesting. Let's read some more. There are records of 3 ships sailing to Jamaica and Barbados with 254 prisoners. It is significant that one of the places in Jamaica with a Scottish name of Culloden, others' name came in between those seeking religious freedom, those from lower socio-economic levels such as gypsies, criminals, and idlers, who were rounded up and shipped off, as well as doctors and lawyers, and others from the middle class who were simply in search of quick fortune. So there was a wide range of people, from the criminals and gypsies to doctors and lawyers. Now, let's read about the Campbells in Jamaica. Campbell is a very common surname in Jamaica. It is said that there are more Campbells per square acre in Jamaica than in Scotland. It is thought that the first Campbell in Jamaica may have been Colonel John Campbell. He was born in Invery in Argyllshire in 1673. He took part in the failed experiment to start a Scottish colony at Darien, Panama, in 1698. But rather than return to Scotland, he decided to settle in 1700 in Jamaica at Black River, St. Elizabeth. Eventually, he set up a sugar plantation at Black River. He later encouraged his nephews to come out as planters to benefit from his initiatives. When he died in 1740, he was buried in St. Elizabeth, and the inscription of his tomb read as follows: "Here lies the Honorable John Campbell, born at Invery, Argyllshire, North Britain, and descended from the ancient family of Auchenbrock. When a youth, he served several campaigns in Flanders. He went as captain of the troops sent to Darien, and on his return to this island in 1700, he married the daughter of Colonel Claiborne, by whom he had several children. In 1718, he married Elizabeth, now alive, was a relict of Colonel Gomes. He was for many years a member of the Assembly, Colonel and Custos of St. Elizabeth in 1722. He was made one of the Privy Council. He was the first Campbell who settled in this island, and through his extreme generosity and assistance, many are now possessed of opulent fortunes. His temperance and great humanity have always been very remarkable. He died January 29th, 1740, aged 66 years. Universally lamented notable Campbells who may be descended from him include the fashion model Naomi Campbell and sprinter Veronica Campbell Brown. And as we see, Naomi Campbell and the sprinter Veronica Campbell Brown, these are so-called black women. So you see that these people didn't come from, particularly, the narrative of just the slave trade. So this article talks about some more stuff about the slave trade, but I just wanted to touch on that part of how there were immigrants and deportees and war criminals from Europe, particularly Scotland, after the Jacobite rebellion and after Cromwell. He sent a lot of deportees to the Americas, and that's how a lot of black people, so-called black people, ended up with their last names. They didn't come from slave owners. They came from their actual ancestors in Europe.